Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Social Media Guidelines to Promote Clean, Drain, Dry Behaviors Among the Recreational Boating Public. My name is Elizabeth Brown, and I am so excited to be here with all of you today. If you have questions for me, go ahead and put those in the Q&A box. We will hold the questions till after the webinar, and then I will stick around and answer as many as I can. So go ahead and document those in the Q&A box for me while we are watching folks join us. Go ahead in the chat and just let me know where you are joining from. Hopefully everyone can chat. Yep. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. If you are just joining us, say hello in the chat. Let us know where you are watching from. We have folks from all across the US and Canada joining. So excited to have you with us. Washington, South Dakota, Montana, New Mexico, Virginia, Canada, Indiana, Kentucky, Wyoming, Arkansas. So good to see so many familiar names in the chat. Louisiana, Missouri, New Hampshire, welcome, welcome. New York, California, awesome. Wyoming, Nevada, Colorado, Connecticut. This is fantastic. I am so excited, everybody. Thank you for being here. All right, I'm going to get started. I will watch the chat in case anything comes up, but again, please put your Q&A for me in that little box, and then I'll save those for after the webinar. All righty. If you are just joining us, go ahead and say hello in the chat to the group. I'm going to get on with the show. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. If not, let me know in the chat. Okay, I want to start today's webinar with this slide. I know I recognize a lot of folks in the chat. Hey, John, good to see you right up the road in Fort Collins. So glad you're here. This is a slide from the boat inspection training. If you don't know me, I have the honor and privilege of teaching the Watercraft Inspection Decontamination training class for Pacific States Marine Fisheries Commission. And part of what I teach every single week or every other week in the spring is about education. And I tell folks, just in the last year, trained over 500 people, which is phenomenal. But I tell them education is the most important thing, because that's what I was told when I first started in this business a really long time ago. Education is the most important thing. And from a prevention standpoint, the reality is we cannot be on every boat ramp all the time. We can't police every boater and angler. Some of us don't even have the jurisdiction to do inspections, right? But what we talk about is that if each boater, angler, hunter, professional, each person using our waters, if they all clean, drain, dry in between every use, we truly can stop the spread of AIS, aquatic invasive species. And I really do believe that in my soul. I believe it in my heart and soul. That's true. And I've seen boat inspections over 18 years now. We've been doing this work, stop the spread of AIS. So I know it's true. And consistency in messaging is key, right? We all need to be sharing the same message. But what I've learned in all of these years is that education can really only get you so far. And I'm an optimist. So believe me when I say it, information-based outreach can only get us so far. We need to be coming together with consistent messaging focused on changing behavior. So we've spent now more than 30 years educating the boating public, and we've spent almost 20 years doing boat inspections in the Western US and Canada. And we still have boats with attached mussels, plants, mud, animals traveling around the continent. So education can only get us so far. Information can only get those boaters so far. What we need is every boater to act, right? And so what I tell my inspectors is, I teach you you teach the public, and together we stop the spread of AIS. And while I want to build those advocates, I want every boater, angler, professional hunter working out in the water, playing out in the water to care as much as I do. A lot of them, I'm never going to get them there, right? But I still need them to clean, drain, dry. I still need them to clean, drain, dry. And so I want to start off with that because we've developed these social media guidelines in partnership. My job here is to facilitate a conversation amongst the Western Regional Panel's Education Outreach Committee. And a large part of what we're going to do and what I'm going to lay out for you is grounded in what's known as community-based social marketing. Now, for many of you, this is not a new concept. I know we even have a few people on this Zoom today that teach community-based social marketing and behavior change science. And thank you so much for being here. So this webinar is just as much about sharing these new guidelines and laying a foundation for everyone to use social media as part of your educational outreach program. But it's really a call to action. It's a CTA for you, for everybody on this Zoom, to embrace community-based social marketing if you haven't already, and add this to what you're already doing with your information and education-based outreach. And so this is a pragmatic approach to creating behavior change, which is what we're going for, right? It's great if they're aware. It's great if they're knowledgeable. It's even really great if they care. But what we really need them to do is act regardless of those factors. What we've worked through over the last year or so with the committee and with other forums is working through this process. And this is a very simplified process, all right? Identifying barriers to the behavior, to clean, drain, dry. Developing a program to overcome those barriers. This is the program. Surprise, this is it. Implement the program among a community of users. Guess what? You're my community of users and all of your colleagues that couldn't make it today. And then we're going to evaluate and refine this program to maximize effectiveness. Now, I didn't come up with community-based social marketing. A wonderful guy named Doug Mackenzie Moore did. This is the latest edition of his book. It came out in January of this year. The references at the bottom there, Fostering Sustainable Behavior to an Introduction to Community-Based Social Marketing. If you are doing this kind of work, I highly recommend that you learn this, that you get this book, that you read it. It's gold. It's absolutely fantastic. A lot of what we're going to talk about comes out of the knowledge I gained from Doug. I want to acknowledge two events that happened. One was taught by Ken Donnelly, who I believe is here today. Hi, Ken. Thank you for being here and for all of your education that you've provided to me. Ken led a Mississippi River Basin panel on aquatic invasive species behavior change workshop in January of this year, just 3 months ago. Many of you attended, and we worked through this process on different user groups. And what we learned in that workshop has been directly applied to these guidelines. It was incredibly impactful for me. So again, thanks to Ken and thanks to everyone that attended. Hopefully, as I talk through this today, you'll see some of the fruits of your labor if you were a part of that workshop. I also had the pleasure on behalf of the Mississippi River Basin panel to attend one of Doug Mackenzie Moore's workshop with Greg Hitzroth, our Education and Outreach Committee Chair. And again, what Greg and I worked through in that workshop has been implemented into these guidelines as well. But it's not a new thing that just happened, right? Doug wrote the first edition a long time ago. I remember about 10, 12 years ago, Bob Wiltshire, who was the chair of the Invasive Species Action Network at the time, executive director, doing a workshop on community-based social marketing for the Western Regional Panel. So this is not a new concept by any means. But it's important that you all understand that these guidelines I'm going to lay out are really grounded in this approach. In addition, the foundation of these guidelines are truly based on 5 publications that came out between 2018 and 2022. As a broader aquatic invasive species community, We have invested significantly dollars and cents into research to better learn why boaters behave the way that they do. I'm not going to talk through each of these, but the first one was done by the WRP, Western Regional Panels Education and Outreach Committee, utilizing a QZAP grant similar to this project. This project is actually the follow-up to that work, if you will. Number 2 was done by the ANS Task Force Education and Outreach Committee, looking at all of our campaigns across the nation, helping us to figure out how do we do this better across jurisdictions. Number 3, Shaw et al. That was done in Wisconsin with Tim Campbell, who many of you know. He chairs our ANS Task Force Education and Outreach Committee. This was a really impactful study testing message frames. The 4th one was done by the Western Regional Panels Education and Outreach Committee. You're getting the theme here. This is ongoing work. And the 5th was done by the same authors that did that first study. And then, of course, boater surveys, right? A lot of information from boater surveys. Really, what this project is all about was operationalizing this information, right? We've done these workshops, we've read the books, we've gotten together, and we've invested in science, in engaging with universities and researchers to learn more about this. This goal was really about having a conversation that says, how do we take all this information, we put it together, and we come up with a plan, a set of guidelines that anybody can go implement. You don't have to be a marketing expert. You don't have to be a social media expert. You don't have to be a social scientist. But any of us running AIS programs or partnering with AIS programs can implement. So that's really the goal of our project, was to take this information that we've learned and operationalize it so that you all can go out there and do the work you need to do to get the message out to change behavior. And it is a QZAP action plan item. We are funded with the QZAP grant, so thank you to the Fish and Wildlife Service. I'm not going to talk through all of this, but just know that we are working on systematically completing all of the education and outreach items within the QZAP 2.0. And then under our committee and panel leadership, we'll be looking to implement and evaluate moving forward. So before we started talking about the guidelines, I did quite a few expert interviews, including all of our committee members, and really asked folks, hey, what behavior, right? The first thing in community-based social marketing, what's the behavior we're looking to change? And asked them, and this was the list. This was the list of all the different things that folks said, we want to change these behaviors. We want boaters and anglers and hunters clean, drain, drying every single time they go out. The folks that have WID programs, watercraft inspection and decontamination stations, WIDs, those people that have those, especially in the Western US and Canada and other Eastern states, they want compliance, right? They want to improve compliance with those laws and regulations. We want folks planning ahead. We want them to know before they go. We want them to report if they find things out there. We want citizen scientists. We want peer pressure. We want folks to tell their friends. So there's all these things, all these behaviors, but we had to narrow it down. What's the most important thing that matters across the board to everybody? And it's really that clean, drain, dry. Okay, that top one. So that's really what we're focusing on, is normalizing clean, drain, dry behavior. We also learned that there's a lot of barriers to using social media, especially in our governmental agencies, depending on how things are structured. So some agencies have very strict controls in place where our AIS program staff are not really able to post on those main agency channels. It's hard for them to get AIS information out there. They're not allowed to have their own pages and all those sorts of things. The opposite is decentralized, where there really is no coordination. Every fisheries biologist, state park, hatchery, they all have their own pages. All the programs have their own pages. And in those cases, synchronizing the messaging can be really important. So you're not sharing different messages across the same agency. A lack of capacity. There are some programs out there that have education outreach specialists within the program. There are even programs out there that have social media specialists, which is so cool. But it's few and far between. Most folks don't have dedicated staff for this work. A lot of people use social media for personal use. Quite a few people don't use it at all that I talk to that are like, no, I'm out, never did it, never. Of course, the older generations. I'm aging myself too, but so there is a lack of knowledge. There's definitely a disbelief that it can actually work to change behavior. And there is, interestingly enough, I did hear this from some of our like public information officers that AIS messaging is really negative. These species have negative impacts. There's restrictions because of them, and they want to make sure that that's not impacting their algorithms. And so they're not as likely to put that information up because it's not cute and cuddly and going to get a whole lot of love. So it was really interesting to get to know how these agencies are using social media differently, and then really focus in on clean, drain, dry being our primary behavior, legal compliance being our secondary goal. We talked about a whole lot of social media platforms, all right, and which ones we should be focused on, especially for those folks, which seem to be the majority, that either had strict controls or a lack of capacity or knowledge. Telling them to go out and start working on 12 different platforms is just overwhelming and not attainable. And the average American uses 12 social media platforms a day. That's right. So how many of those apps that you see up there do you have on your phone right now? Go ahead and put a number in the chat for me. I'm just curious. I have 8. I'll tell you my number. There are 8 of those on my phone right now. And I would probably say that, oh, I really only use maybe 2 regularly. So 4, 3, 5, 6, 6, 9. Yep. 7, 8 plus Blue Sky. Yep. There's a lot that aren't on there. Yeah. 12, 14. Yep. Okay. So what we decided when we went through, I made a list of every state agency. You're going to get that in the toolkit with a link to their social media sites. All right. So you're going to get that. And what we found out doing that was that just about almost all of the state agencies, all the state agencies are on Facebook and Instagram and X. There are some prohibitions against TikTok and Snapchat and some of these other ones that can't be used. So our guidelines are focused on the Meta suite of platforms, really Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. But we added Twitter in there because we found that not everybody has made the switch from Twitter to Threads, and Twitter's still a really common platform. We started going down WhatsApp and Messenger, which are the 2 chat platforms that Meta runs, and we backed off of those because once we started getting into paid advertising and chatbots and conversational AI, it was just too much. So maybe that's a part 2 we can work on in the future, but it was too much for this particular project to get into all of that conversation marketing. Okay, so why these apps? And I'm going to do this fast because let me tell you, most of you are probably on Facebook. Yes, out of the couple of apps you may have, even if you only have 2 or 3, Facebook is most likely one of them. So Facebook is the oldest. If you had a MySpace, I won't make you age yourself by putting that in the chat, but I did. Launched in 2004, Facebook is the most used social platform, and it is king. Facebook is king, and it has been for a long time. 3.65 billion global users monthly. 53%, hear that number, 53% of all social media visits in America are on Facebook. So that's not all users, that's all visits. Every time somebody picks up a phone or goes online, and most people are doing this on their phone, as you can see, 98% of all US Facebook users use the platform on their mobile. So when you're designing content, you have to design for mobile. 69% of US Facebook users only use their phone. It's pretty rare that I go on Facebook on my computer, and typically only for work. But we have 225 million Americans on Facebook. It's a lot of people, a lot of reach, right? More than you're going to get in some other more traditional settings. Instagram launched in 2010. This is Meta's other big app. 3rd most popular social media platform in the world. Number 2 is YouTube. And YouTube marketing is a whole nother beast I'd love to go into one day, but we don't do it in these guidelines. Instagram, again, launched in 2010. Americans spend an average of 33 minutes a day on Instagram. It is so easy to scroll the gram. 180 million Americans, 78% of Americans between age 18 and 29 are on Instagram. It is the most popular app for that age group. So if that's your target audience, and a lot of the science said that's where we're missing out, that's where we need to be. We need to go where the boaters are getting their information. Moving on, Threads. 59% of Americans between 30 and 49 are on Instagram. So it's just huge chunks of the population. Threads, this is the new one, 2023. It was launched in competition with X. It's the fastest app to ever reach 100 million users in its first 5 days. 30 million Americans are active users on Threads. And from a business standpoint, and you're all in the business of selling the message of clean, drain, dry and the action of doing clean, drain, dry. I know a lot of you are biologists and nobody told you were going to be marketers, but we are selling this to the public in hopes that they will take action. They make it easy to do that on the Meta platform, within the platform. And then Twitter, right? X. It's not Twitter anymore. I still call it the Sears Tower in Chicago. My family corrects me. It's the Willis Tower now. I'm one of those people. I'm stuck with the old names. So forgive me. It's X, not Twitter, but that's just me. Okay, launched in 2006. This was the most popular for a while. It fell to 12th. It's now at 10th. 500 million global active users monthly, 50 million Americans on it, 58% of users between 18 and 34. So if you are someone that does not use social media for work, I want to employ you, take a chance, because the amount of people you can reach is astronomical. Okay, so there's two main social marketing strategies. And if you're on any of these platforms, you have probably seen these. Organic social marketing strategies. An organic campaign is a campaign where an entity, which in the marketing world we call them brands, in our world we call them agencies and organizations or entities, right? But where they share content at no cost, right? This is what all of you do every day if you post on social. It's when you upload your text, or you upload photos or videos, or you post a story, and we'll get into what all those are if you don't already know. But that's what everybody does, right? So if you have a page, you're doing organic. A profile, a page, a group, you're doing organic. And this is great because it's cost effective, you can authentically connect, you can have ongoing visibility. The negative is limited growth, unpredictable results. It's gotten harder and harder to get organic reach. And if you feel that out there, go ahead and put a yes in the chat, because I feel that. It's harder and harder, especially on Facebook and Instagram, to get organic reach. They are a business, they want to make money, and people spend millions and millions of dollars on ads on these platforms. So it is harder and harder to get organic reach. If that's your situation, consider doing a likes campaign to get more and more followers actually on your page. And you can do that as an option as one of our paid strategies. So everybody's doing organic. If you have a page or profile, if you put anything out there, you're doing the organic, natural way to market. If you have money, you can't do this on a personal profile. It has to be a business page. Then that should say a paid social media. That's wrong. I'm so sorry. There should say a paid social media campaign is a marketing strategy where an entity or brand pays for promotion, right? And there's a lot of different ways to do paid advertising. There's boosted posts. A lot of folks ask me about boosted posts. I'm not a fan of boosted posts because when you boost a post, Facebook will show it to people, and that's great. But I want Facebook or Instagram to show it to the people I want them to show it to, right? And so I want to use targeted advertising and targeted demographics. I want to pick the interests, the behaviors, the location, the ages, the demographics that match my voters, right? And you can do that with paid ads. You could do image ads, video ads, carousel ads. We'll get into all of that. They can be time bound. For example, we did a lot of this when I was doing National Invasive Species Awareness Week. leading up to that event and during that week. We did a lot of paid advertising to try to, during that time frame, get our message in front of the right people for us. And examples like when we have Lake Appreciation Month, or when you have boat ramps opening, perhaps those could be good time-bound ad campaigns. Or evergreen that really has no time frame. You do need money and you need a little bit more expertise, but you get immediate results, scalable results, measurable outcomes. You get data to make it better, and we all love data to make it better. Okay, so let's talk a minute about who we are talking to. And I need to talk faster. I get so excited. Okay, so for our guidelines, we are very focused on the organic work because most of our agencies don't have budgets for the paid advertising. If you do have budgets, then you could consider, as Monica suggests in the chat, hiring or partnering with a marketing company to help you with this if you don't have that expertise in-house. Yeah, so great comment, thank you. All right, so we're talking about the largest outdoor recreational user group in North America. Okay, boaters, it's a huge group. It's a huge, very diverse group, right? In the US, we have 11.6 million recreational boats registered. All right. And that's an underestimated number because state agencies register boats differently. We have an estimated 13.4 million unregistered boats, but 12% basically of households own a boat. So that's a lot of Americans, right? That's a lot of people that actually own a boat. Outdoor power boats are the most popular boats. Sorry, I get my notes here. Are the most popular boat, followed by kayaks, rowboats, canoes, personal watercraft, pontoon boats, paddleboards, cabin cruisers, and sailboats. Most boats are less than 26 feet in length. This is important because smaller boats are easier to trailer and transport. So 95% of boats are easily trailered and moved from one water body to another. The average boat is operated 54 days per year, and the Coast Guard estimates that boats are transported 28 times per year, and that there are 167 million launches in the US every year. 100 million Americans go boating annually, and non-motorized users continue every year to be the highest number. So kayaks first, canoes second, paddleboards taken over. So it's important as marketers that we know our audience because that's who we're speaking to. And when we are devising our social media campaigns and our content, we need to be developing it so that it feels community based, not like a government mandate. Another thing to just keep in mind, we talked a little bit about demographics earlier, but this is crazy to me. 1 million people purchased a boat for the first time during the COVID pandemic. That's 1 million people that don't know how to take care of their boat. They don't know about clean, drain, dry. They weren't listening for the 15 years before the pandemic, or the 20 years or 30 years, depending on the part of the country you're in, right? 1 million new boaters says 1 million people that we have to train. Generation X, is still the largest group at 37%. Millennials are jumping up there. They now make up 31% of the country's boat owners. And where are millennials getting their info? Social media. Baby boomers, 28%. Half of all boat owning households with 2 adults do not have children. 30% do have children. Household with single adults and no children are 16.4% of all boat owning households. So the generations, millennials are coming up. And that's a big part of who bought those new boats. And those people that bought those new boats are getting their info from social media, right? So those are the folks that are on Instagram. Those are the folks that are on Threads. That's where we need to be. And what do we want them to do? Clean, drain, dry. Easy peasy. Yes? No. Right? It sounds easy. What we tell our inspectors is no mud, no plants, no water, no mussels. What you see up here are the national and STF approved voluntary guidelines for recreational boats. Now, it's not that hard. All right. It's not. I do it. You guys do it. We got to do it. All right. We got to remove the plants and animals. We got to clean the boat, the trailer, the gear, the equipment, the paddles, the life jackets, all the things. Flush the motors, rinse it off, pull the drain plugs. Here's the list, right? We get into trouble a little bit in the drain part, don't we? Yeah. The ballast tanks, they're not made to drain. So they can drain to the best of their ability, but they can't get them drained and dry. The inboards, the IOs, some of these complex boats, we can't get them drained and dry. So it's not as simple as clean, drain, dry. There is some education that has to happen, right? They need to know how to do it. They need to have the tools to do it. And they need to believe that everybody else is doing it too, right? And so that's part of the goals, okay? For those boats that can't be drained, that's why a lot of states and a lot of provinces, especially in the Western US, have mandatory inspection and decontamination programs. And in those places, we need legal compliance. We need those boaters to know what's expected before they get there so that they can comply with the law. And a big part of that is transporting a boat that's clean, drain, and dry to begin with. Yes? Yes. So, barriers. Why aren't our boaters clean, draining, and drying? Assuming that some of them are not. And I know they're not because I see the intercepted boats and I see the data and I know they're not. So now we looked at those studies. Remember I put up those studies at the very beginning and I said, this is the foundation of these guidelines. So what you're going to see now is all that information being smushed together for you, right? So we can operationalize it. So these are the barriers. This is what we learned from those studies. We learned that boaters are less concerned about aquatic invasive species than other environmental issues. So when we say clean, drain, dry to stop the spread of AIS, if you're a boater that's less concerned about AIS, that's actually putting up a barrier, right? Because you're not going to take action because of that. That's not something you care deeply about. If they don't believe AIS is a problem for them, if they don't believe others are clean, drain, drying, if they don't know what to do or how to do it or the tools to do it. Crowding at ramps came up in multiple studies, no punishments or fines. And so we want to make sure we're focusing our messaging on the action, because if we're putting up the reason why as aquatic invasive species, and I know this might be an unpopular comment, but if that is the reason why we want people to do this, and they're not concerned and they don't think it's going to pose harm, then they're not going to do it. So that part of the message, we got to take a look at, all right? And I'm not saying stop educating people. I'm saying we got to get this behavior change message inserted in the conversation. So what do they believe? What do these studies tell us that they believe? These studies plus boater surveys indicate that boaters are concerned with the following issues. And AIS either didn't rank or ranked last in most places. So they're concerned about clean water and pollution. They're concerned about access. They're concerned about their investment. They're concerned about protecting lakes, reservoirs, streams, and rivers, loss of habitat, climate change, loss of wetlands, which is similar to the other two, fish and wildlife disease. So these are some of the things that they're concerned about. Not all boaters, right? But the boaters in these surveys and studies. And what motivates them? So what is going to motivate them to take action, right? Protecting their investment, right? A boat isn't cheap. Spending a weekend at the lake with your family or your friends is not cheap. So protecting their investment. In places where there's laws and regs, they want to comply. Seeing other people clean, drain, dry. Again, normative behavior. When they see other people do it, they're more likely to do it. So that is really the point here. If you take anything away from this webinar, we want to use social media to show boaters, other boaters clean, drain, and drying and being so happy to do so that we can start to create social proof to normalize that behavior. All right. If you take nothing else away, that's the takeaway. Okay, bye. You can all go home now. Just kidding. They want to preserve clean water, maintain wildlife habitat, mitigate climate change concerns, protect natural spaces, et cetera, et cetera. So when we're talking about effective behavior change messaging, what we want to do is we want to simplify the current message. We want to focus it on the desired action, which is clean, drain, dry. And we want to have a peer-to-peer perception that this is common behavior for all. So regardless of the user demographics, so where they're located, their background, anything about them, regardless of the type of boat they use, regardless of the activities they like to go boating to do, we all clean, drain, dry. It's just what boaters do, right? It's just what boaters do. And the more that we can show that, instead of telling it, the more we're going to be effective at changing behavior. So what we're going to do is we're going to take those barriers to clean, drain, dry, CDD, and we are going to turn them and we're going to use them as motivation, right? We're going to understand those barriers, and we're going to capitalize on that motivation. And what we're really focusing on here is, again, the belief that others don't clean, drain, dry, and making sure that people see other people clean, drain, drying, and they start to think of this as a more common behavior. Okay, so now let's get back to the social media part of it, all right? So we understand our audience. So to effectively engage with our audience, and what we're doing is influencing, right? You never thought you'd be an influencer. Guess what? I'm here to deputize you as an influencer or a content creator, which is a more politically correct term, I hear. So what we're trying to do is influence behavior, right? And most influencers on social media are using their following, their established following, to influence people to purchase, to buy things, to make money. That's what most influencers are doing. They're getting corporate deals to promote products to their following and then getting a percentage back, right? We're not selling anything that's going to necessarily make us money. We're selling this action. We're selling this behavior, right? And we want to really be tailoring that message to our specific action, our audience, with a strong call to action. And we'll talk about that in a minute. There are three main types of posts. So education and informational content, we are really good at. This is what we do as biologists, as scientists, as managers. We educate people, we share information, science-based facts, practical tips, links to articles, frequently asked questions, things like that. Entertaining and engaging, this is where you start to get that engagement. So if you are somebody that earlier said, yeah, I'm not getting a lot of organic engagement, and everything you're putting out there is education or information, start sprinkling in some entertainment and engagement and inspiration, all right? So entertainment is really crucial for managing engagement. So memes, GIFs, captivating stories, behind the scenes glimpses. I think ISAN does a great job of this, like when they're doing public education events, tabling events and stuff. They do a lot of behind the scenes photos. I love that. Polls, countdowns, Q&As, really where the whole point is, hey, let's connect, let's talk, right? Let's reinforce these message frames. And then inspirational content, right? So encouragement, motivation, success stories, right? Had a great day at the lake, and before we go home, we're clean, drain, drying, right? Here's all the fish I caught, or here's a video of my big wake that I got to ride. Again, boater to boater, right? And so by sprinkling these things in and out and not sticking to one theme, you're going to get much better engagement. And overall, we want positive and engaging messaging where we are sharing stories about AIS prevention and demonstrating those clean, drain, dry practices as best practices. In a lot of cases, we are going to be showing them without even saying it. It's just what we do, right? So a couple of different pieces here on post formats. So it's not all photos, right? We have text only. People do that very infrequently now, with the exception of maybe on X. But text only posts are available Facebook threads and X, and it's just straight up text, call to action, no visuals. What most of you are doing is photo and video posts, right? You're posting your photos and videos on your personal profile for your family and friends to see. You can do one or more. You can educate, inform, inspire, entertain this way. Photo carousels are only on Instagram. These are incredibly effective. They're a series of photos with strategic messaging that the user can scroll through. Millennials love photo carousels. Reels are full screen vertical videos up to 90 seconds long. They are available on Facebook and Instagram. They are Meta's response to TikTok. TikTok wouldn't sell to Meta, and so they created Reels. This is also what the Snapchat users are using, YouTube Shorts. So you can repurpose this content for different platforms. And then stories, Facebook and Instagram. This was to duplicate Snapchat, similar story. They wouldn't sell, so Facebook created a tool very similar to what Snapchat does. Ideal post length, just know that each platform has a post length with a character setting. So you just have to be within those in order. And I won't go through them all just for the sake of time, but they are detailed out for you. The primary barrier that we are trying to overcome is this idea that recreational boaters don't believe other boaters clean, drain, dry. They don't see other boaters clean, drain, drying, and therefore they are less likely to take those actions. Our messages are intended to change the perception by providing social proof that boaters do clean, drain, dry by visually showing those. And so I want to talk a little bit about message frames. And if you hang out with Tim Campbell, you might already know a lot about message frames, but that was part of what he studied with Shaw in Wisconsin that was really informative and helped us to narrow things down a little bit. But a message frame is a context and an approach used to create information and communicate. So when you're framing a message, you are focusing your attention and changing how that viewer perceives the message, right? And so it will impact how the viewer engages with your content, all right? So depending on how you frame it, and what was in that study was that different user groups reacted different frames. Some may actually invoke negative connotations. So we generally don't use that military language. We're trying to phase that out of our vocabulary because it really does evoke negative connections and does not help to empower people to take the actions that we actually want them to take. And so there's a couple of different message frames that we want to be using. We've used hitchhikers for decades, and it's really interesting to think of zebra and quagga mussels as these passive, helpless critters that just get taken wherever the boats go. While that may be true, they are a driving force of environmental change with serious impacts to our culture, our economy, and our environment. And so perhaps framing them in a way that showcases that and versus the hitchhiker perception may be more impactful for behavior change and action taking. Science messaging, factual, appeared to have the strongest performance in terms of encouraging clean, drain, dry behavior. But keep in mind that when we're doing social media, right, we are looking at engagement, but we don't really know, okay, did they pull the plug? So that's where doing boater surveys and sitting on boat ramps and really looking, is your public actually doing that, is really important, right? You can measure social engagement, but we don't necessarily know, did that person wipe their hull? Did they clean? Anyhow, nurture and protective, protect your waters, protect your family time, protect your sport. Those sorts of messages resonated with all user groups. Ecological gain really worked well with non-motorized watercraft and jet skiers. Your lake will benefit, the wildlife will benefit. Personal obligation didn't do as well as I thought in some of these studies when you're kind of looking across the spectrum. It's your duty, it's your job, your community expects you to, your fellow anglers expect you to. That pontoon boaters, that resonated a little bit. And then economic health, it'll cost you money. So those are just different types of message frames that you can use for different audiences. And we have a much more in-depth list of example text that you can copy and paste and improve for your social in our final document. And then again, we want to use a little bit of message variation. So focusing on clean, drain, dry, right? And regardless of how much, I don't know if care is the right word, but how much belief, where you're coming from, your background, your perception, your values, right? So clean, drain, dry, it's what boaters do, right? Clean, drain, dry, it's what wakeboarders do, anglers, niching down into those groups. We learned from these studies that connecting the clean, drain, dry messaging to those motivators, to those things that boaters care about is really important. Clean, drain, dry to keep our waters clean. Connecting to state and existing campaigns is also important. So in Texas, we have Protect the Lakes You Love. It's one of my favorite campaigns. Clean, Drain, Dry to protect the lakes you love. Clean, Drain, Dry because it's better for your boat. Again, number one, they care about protecting their investment, right? It's better for the thing you invested in, right? Protect your investment. Clean, Drain, Dry for habitat. And then again, those state and provincial campaigns. Make it personal. Clean, Drain, Dry to protect Kansas waters. Call them out, Kansas, right? Call them out, Colorado. And then one thing that really has been hammered home in my brain is this commitment that the boater needs to make, which is a critical part of CBSM that we talked a lot about in the workshop that Ken Donnelly ran. Making sure that we're getting a commitment, a verbal commitment or a written commitment. So if you have a pledge that boaters can take, then you could say, hey, will you pledge to clean, drain, dry? Give them a link. That's the call to action, right? Go here, click and commit. When they verbally or in writing or in a public forum commit to clean, drain, and drying, something actually happens. We want to be people that are of our word. And so they are much more likely to do the action if they have made that commitment. So having those sorts of things are great. So we have a lot of, hey, we do this, will you do this? That's the take, right? Peer to peer, boater to boater. That's the goal. Okay, calls to action are typically things like if you're organic, likes, comments, shares, links to more information. If you're using paid, you can track all of that a little bit better. But again, getting that commitment is really important. For the purpose of these guidelines, we used our national education campaigns as most of the calls to action, but certainly the state and provincial websites, your local organizations, your lake website are all great places to send people for more information. So there are a couple of different calls to action. So engagement calls to actions are things like likes, shares, comments, tags. Educational would be like learn more here and you send them to a website, or watch our video. That would be an educational one. Traffic driving calls to action, I think, is what most people do, where you're driving those users, those viewers to a website or a landing page to learn more, to take a pledge, to read an article or something else, right? And then what we're looking for is that action orientated call to action. So after you're done boating, we want you to commit to clean, drain, dry. We want you to know before you go. We want you to plan ahead. We want you to expect to inspect, those sorts of things. Okay, hashtags. Hashtags are, you guys see these out there. They're a word or phrase preceded by the hash symbol. And these are really important because they help us to categorize information. So if you are in this business and you are currently not following the hashtag clean, drain, dry, I recommend you do. Because knowing what other people are putting out there, and that's a really easy way to amplify the message, can help you to develop better content, right? And see where boaters are getting their information from and build strategic partnerships to leverage your efforts with those channels. We're running low on time, so I'm going to be quick here. But if you are going to embrace any of this and use social, please use the hashtag clean, drain, dry. We want to track as best we can how this is getting moved out across the landscape. Hashtags were created for X. They were created for that, and they are typically inserted within the post text. Instagram and Threads, they're critical to getting reach. And Facebook are not widely used, only one or two after the text. Don't load your text on Instagram or on Facebook with hashtags or people will unfollow you. Okay, here's a whole bunch of AIS hashtags. I just did a hashtag search for aquatic invasive species, and these are the top hashtags for this issue. So you can use any of these. Again, you don't want to go crazy. You don't need 100, but pick the ones that are most relevant to what you're posting about. Here's some boater hashtags. Hashtag boat. It's number one. So if you want your stuff to be seen by boaters on Instagram, hashtag boat. Okay, folks that are watching that. If you're pictures of a yacht, hashtag yacht, but don't hashtag yacht if you're talking to anglers with a 20-foot boat. Okay. So match your hashtags to the photo and the text and the call to action. It all has to be congruent. Paddler hashtags, so many. Trending hashtags, beach, lake life, lake, love, Love is number one. Amen to that. Love is number one. Love was the first hashtag. It is still the number one trending hashtag, right? Hashtag love, hashtag boating. Boom. There you go. It's going to get seen. Okay, so now you've crafted your perfect post and we're implementing with 5 minutes to go. I'm going to have to talk quick here, friends. So there's a lot of tools available, right? But think about how you want to space this out, because doing this day to day is really hard. But sitting down and putting together a content calendar and making decisions about how to put all of this together, and then batching all of your information and using some social media tools can really help to make life easier. Meta has a business tool that I use. It's really easy to use, and you can post to all the platforms that they run at the same time. Other ones are like Hootsuite. I schedule things ahead of time so that I don't have to be thinking every day, ooh, I got to go post now. No, that's the way you do it when you're doing it for fun, to show your mom pictures of the kids at the pool. When you're doing this for work, it's very strategic. And we're monitoring that performance. We're monitoring our partners to amplify their voice, to repost and share. We're conducting periodic pulse checks. So we're checking in using polling features to survey our followers to find out if what messages are resonating. Are they taking action? What's the adoption? We want to be constantly updating that messaging to reflect those metrics that we're getting back. Identifying ambassadors and advocates. 90+% of people buy on social media from people that they trust. That doesn't mean people they know, people they trust. So identifying those people to be brand ambassadors for Clean Dry is really important. They don't have to be paid influencers or content creators. They can be volunteers, they can be NGO leaders, they could be boating or angling groups, they can be members of your community, but that does help because, again, peer-to-peer is what we're looking for. And so if there are folks that you can partner with that aren't wearing the logo, but they're out there doing the do, right? They're the volunteers that care. They're the people that got it in their value system, and they clean, drain, dry every time. We want those folks engaged. Okay, so frequency and timing. We have created multiple calendars, and you are going to get all this in the toolkit. And we're going to email that out after the webinar. It'll get posted onto the Western Regional Panel's website. At an absolute minimum, we would love for agencies across the continent to embrace the 4 main boating holidays and go big: Memorial Day, Father's Day, Labor Day, and 4th of July. That is when the majority of boaters are out there, and the majority of boaters are actually traveling, not at their home lake, but traveling to engage in boating. We also have several awareness months that have toolkits that you can take advantage of. National Invasive Species Awareness Week, Play Clean Go Awareness Week, Lake Appreciation Month, Firewood Awareness Month. And then for those of you that have your own channels and have control over all of that, we have a monthly calendar. So I'm going to show it to you in a minute, but we have a calendar for you that you can duplicate from month to, we're going to give you the first month's content, and then you can duplicate that over time and improve it based on your experience. So that I'm super excited about. Here's your monthly calendar. We've got, in a perfect world, we have everybody do those 4 main holidays, and everybody do at least 1 post a month that's timed. In a perfect world, we're all doing this every day, but that's not reality, right? A lot of us, social media is not our job. But we have a monthly calendar for you with sample text you can take and personalize. You can copy and post, or you can take it and personalize it. We have resources for those awareness weeks available for you and months. And then we have our 30-day calendar for April that you can then copy every month after. And within this, you click on this and it'll give you the headline, the text, the photo, the call to action. Again, you can copy and paste done for you, or you can personalize it and do it yourself. But every one of these you just click on and it gives you, this is what you post today, right? So we may want to make it really easy your first month. In our toolkit, what we have are those calendars for you. We have the state social media links spreadsheets. You can start connecting with each other, connecting your pages and helping each other. We also have a lot of imagery. We have 15 images and 5 videos that you can take and use and personalize. So keeping it simple. You'll notice there's no agency logos on here. You are welcome to put your logos on here or not, right? We want to be peer-to-peer. So we clean, drain, dry, will you? That's the goal. That's it. Simple. And you can take it a step further. It's what paddlers do, right? Here's clean, drain, dry, will you? It's what anglers do. And then maybe you want to spruce it up a little bit. Here's some water sports. It's what we do to protect the places we love, right? It's what we do to protect the places we play. It's what we do to protect our sports. It's what we do to have a great time at the lake, right? These are waterfowl hunters. It's what waterfowl hunters do. It's what waterfowl hunters do to preserve hunting opportunities. They care about opportunities and access, right? Here's some rafters, right? Just giving you kind of 2 variations. And again, you can throw logos on here. You can throw more messages on here. You can change the photos. You can take them and do what you want with them. Hunters, right? It's what waterfowl hunters do to protect habitat. Here's families, right? It's what we do because we care about our lakes. It's what we do to protect our family fun time, right? These are videos. We're at the top of the hour. I'm just gonna, if you can hang on, awesome. If you gotta go, that's okay. We will share this recording. Sorry, I talked to the end of the hour. I will stick around and answer any questions that may have come up. So if you don't have to run, stick with me. But if you do, that's okay. Thank you so much for being here. We will get the recording out. Okay, this one, so this would be, you'd post as a story or a reel. It's very simple. If it'll play for me. Oh, cannot play media. Awesome. Okay, what about this one? This one play. Yeah, here we go. After a great day fishing, before packing up to go home, we clean, drain, dry, so we can fish again. Will you clean, drain, dry too? Right? So it's just a series of photos with animated text. Very simple, right? Next slide. Here's a couple others. This one here, I'm going to play the one on the end. Oh, PowerPoint, you stink, because I really like this one on the end. After a great day on the lake, before driving home, we clean, drain, dry. Will you? And in this one, we send them a link to the cleandraindry.org, but of course you could put any link you want on there to link them to. So anyway, so those are just some examples. So you have a whole suite of photos and a suite of videos to get you started, as well as the 30-day calendar, the monthly calendar, and the National Awareness Month content. Okay, now I just want to close with this. Social media, I think, is a tool that every program should be using in some way, shape, or form, because it gives you the ability to reach your audience in a way that is really engaging and can supplement all the other things you're doing. It is a great way to remind boaters, right? They need reminders. And one of the best reminders is the boat ramp signs, right? People say that in the surveys. I get my information from the signs, from the staff, from the agency websites, from the inspection staff. So we need to keep doing all those things, right? Don't stop any of the great education and information work that you are already doing out there. It's so important. But start to add in, if you're not already, social media, and work in these components where it's really just about the action and not about the knowledge. Okay, and I know that's hard for some of us. Boaters have a high confidence in the state agency's ability to provide the best available information. And so your channels are being watched. They are being followed. Your users are already there. you have a captive audience of not just the people in your states and provinces, but the people visiting your states and provinces. I'm going camping in Utah at state parks. I'm going to Utah State Parks channels and I'm following them. That's just how we are now as a people, because I want to get information about that. I want to get excited about my trip. And so they're watching. So the more you can sprinkle it in, and sprinkle it in with content that's not AIS related, that's just fishing content or boating content or boater safety content, to just get that in front of them, the better we will be. It's in addition to our traditional methods. It's not a replacement. And I want you to hear that loud and clear, but it really can help to create, again, that social proof where it's just what people do when they go boating. Okay, so a few acknowledgments. Again, this work was supported and funded by U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service QZAP grant. This was a collaboration with the Western Regional Panels Educational Outreach Committee. So every one of those members contributed significantly, and I greatly appreciate each and every one of them. Monica McGarity from Texas Parks and Wildlife Department is our former committee chair and a huge supporter of this program and contributed a lot to the final product. So Monica, thank you. I appreciate you. Sarah Rickliff's our new committee chair. Thank you for taking the reins. So excited to be a member of your committee moving forward. And then Sarah, Aaron, and Jennifer at Invasive Species Action Network. Behavior change messaging is what they do. It's their specialty, and they contributed a great deal to making this the best product possible. And then all of the state AIS coordinators and staff that took the time to meet with me or review the documents. I really appreciate it. That takes us to the end of our time together. So thank you. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.